right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock, it is time for Ocala Magazine Radio. Your host, John Sotomayor, is in his seat and ready to begin the show. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Larry.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
Good to see you.
Good, good. Yeah, we do have a great show today. We have covered the horse industry in our January issue that we want to talk about today because it's perfect timing. There's plenty of events coming up in March. And so what we've done is we've assembled a panel here of some of the industry leaders. With me today is Cindy Oatman from HITS, and she's going to be calling in. Ann Favre from the Florida Horse Park. Michael Price, author of The Story of Stormcat, who's a racehorse. And Brock Sheridan, editor-in-chief of the Florida Horse Magazine, and you are also part of the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yes, John, that's exactly right. The Florida Equine Publications is Florida Horse Magazine, Wire to Wire, that you see around town a lot.
Yes.
And we are the official voice of the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association here in Florida.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for being my guests today. We're going to focus on HITS first. So if we have Cindy on the phone.
Yep. Good morning, Cindy.
Hey, good morning. Actually, this is Kristen. Cindy is here with me as well, but my name's Kristen Vale. I'm the show manager here at HITS.
Hey,
and,
Kristen.
I'm going to start out our interview here, and then I'll hand it over to Cindy for some of the areas where she has some expertise.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Can you please tell us a little background on HITS, what it's about, and how it impacts our local area?
I can, of course. HITS is a nationwide horse show management company. We run horse shows in Florida, California, Arizona, New York, and Virginia. We actually, though, got our start running horse shows in Gainesville back in 1982. Shortly after that, the horse shows were moved to Ocala. They were a circuit of just a couple of shows at that point in time. And over those last 30 years or so, we've grown from those 2 or 3 weeks of shows into the 9-week circuit that we are today. We have close to 2,000 horses on the grounds every week, as well as so many people who in the last few years have bought property in the area and so have their horses just in the surrounding area and ship their horses into horse show. How does it impact the local area?
Yes.
It brings thousands of people here for certainly the months of January, February, March, you know, and impacts everything from restaurants to hotels to the dry cleaners and the Quick King down the street.
Absolutely. And I'd like to remind our readers that, and our listeners that the issue appeared in our January issue. In the story, we included the by the numbers on page 32, which will show you the impact it had on our local area in terms of numbers and sales and stuff. So can you please tell us what some of the events that took place earlier this year is? HITS begins in January, correct?
Certainly. We started this year on January 16th. The first 3 weeks that we show, we're actually not rated by the USEF, the USEF being the governing body for equestrian sport in the United States. So we're not actually rated by them because there are some other shows in the state that sort of preclude that. But we really found that our customers wanted to come to Florida earlier. They wanted to get out of the cold weather of the Northeast, and so there was a market to start showing here earlier. So those first 3 weeks are somewhat smaller shows, more in the 1,000 horses a week range.
Yes.
We still do a full range of classes from what we call short stirrup, which would be kids that, you know, just their first or second horse show, all the way up to the Grand Prix, which is really, you know, almost Olympic level show jumping.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the events that are coming up in March.
Absolutely. You know, as the circuit goes along and we grow and more horses come in and compete through the circuit, now that we are AA and 5-star rated by our by the USEF, and at the March 17th is really our big final class. We do a $100,000 Grand Prix that weekend, sponsored by Sullivan GMC, and it's really the grand finale to the circuit, and it's really what all the top riders set their goals for when they arrive in Ocala in January.
Excellent. And I also wanted to mention that one of the reasons why we created this feature, which is called Horsing Around 2, was because we wanted to provide an easy-to-follow guide for visitors and residents alike to find ways that they can participate in events that also interact with horses. HITS is one of the best examples of that, as well as things that's happening in the Florida Horse Park and others. So we welcome readers to take a look at that. And so now, if we can, let's take a moment and talk to Ann about the Florida Horse Park.
Good morning, John.
Good morning, Ann. Same question as before. Tell us a little background about the Florida Horse Park and how it impacts our area.
Well, the Florida Horse Park was established in 1996 when the state, in recognition of Ocala and Marion County's role in the equestrian community for Florida, they set aside 500 acres, and our goal and our mission is to support the equestrian community regionally. So to do that, we host a variety of events. We're non-denominational when it comes to horsemanship. We welcome eventers, dressage. We even do non-equestrian events such as dog trials and things like that.
Excellent. And you have a fundraiser coming up, correct? It's called the Silvia Zerberini Grand You say it.
I can. On March 9th, Sylvia Serbini was kind enough to offer to do a fundraiser. The park itself is completely supported by operations and private funding. We don't receive any municipal or state funding, so we're completely dependent on donors. Well, Sylvia has offered to do a fundraiser to help us raise capital. We initiated a capital campaign this March. We're hoping to improve and build new barns as well as a covered arena, and ultimately there's quite a exciting vision, much like Wellington, a full equestrian program and facility, so we're very excited about that. Sylvia will be presenting March 9th. For anyone who would like information about that, there is more information about Sylvia as well as our diversity of events on the webpage for Florida. It is www.flhorsepark.com. That's www.flhorsepark.com, and just check out our calendar of exciting events.
Wonderful. And do you have anything else coming up in March as well?
We have so many things, exciting things coming up. That same weekend as the Zerbini event, there's also an Ocala Spring Dressage, 2-day dressage event. There's a Prolo Cross tournament coming up, as well as an Interstate Equestrian Association. We have so many events, it's really worth checking our website. Most of them are free to the public. There is a charge for competitors, but come check it out. I think you'll have a great time.
Great. And how does this impact our local area? We really represent a non-denominational diversity of events, so it's really we'd like it to be a hub and a center where the recreational, semi-professional rider can come enjoy. They can come and enjoy from the standpoint of actually being a competitor. They can come and enjoy from the standpoint of being a spectator. We also have 500 acres of trails that are integral to the Greenway trail that runs coast to coast, so lots to do, and I think with that there's all the economic impact of for restaurants, for hotels, so I think that's how we impact the area. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, because I forgot to mention earlier, one of the things we want to focus on is that we want to provide a way for the equine community and the main overall community to work together, find partnerships together to boost each other's economy. So great thing you're doing over there.
Thank you, John.
One of the other things that Ocala Marion County is known most for is thoroughbreds, and I want to focus now with Brock on what the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association does and how it impacts the local community.
Well, the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association has been around for nearly 40 years. It started out in Miami and moved to Ocala, I believe, in the 1950s. What we do is we represent the thoroughbred breeders and owners and here in the state of Florida, and we promote them through associations with the racetracks in the state: Tampa Bay Downs, Gulfstream Park, Calder, in Miami, and of course Gulfstream Park in Miami as well. And we have races that we sponsor at each of these racetracks. We have events. We keep track of the local champions, the horse of the year. Of course, was Little Mike, who won the Breeders' Cup Turf out in Los Angeles in November. And we also have we represent the thoroughbred breeders and owners in front of the state legislature as well. We're up there right now talking to some of our state legislators about some of the things that, some of the laws and some of the things that we can do to better promote thoroughbred breeders and owners in the state of Florida.
Excellent. Glad to hear that. Now, there's an Ocala breeder sales coming up, right? A horse auction?
That's right. Really, this is the all-star auction, and if people want to come out and see some of the great superstars of the thoroughbred breeding industry, or in the thoroughbred racing industry, you'll see guys like trainer Todd Pletcher, trainer Bob Baffert will be here in town, probably Nick Zito. I mean, you're talking about guys that have won 3 and 4 Kentucky Derbies. Pletcher's won 1, Bob has won 3. Zito, I believe, is 1, 2. Those guys will all be in town to pick out really the stars of next year or later this year, and that's March 12th and 13th here at OBS. And what a lot of people in Ocala don't realize is that you can go to these auctions, and they are open to the public, completely free. You can go back in the barn area, get an up-close look at the horses, and then watch and see some of these horses sell. And some of them will sell for upwards of $1 million each.
Wow. That's amazing. There's also an event the day before, right?
Yes. We will be running our annual Ocala Breeder Sales Company Championship Day, and that'll be at the racetrack there at the Ocala Breeder Sales Company. Of course, I think most people know where that is, across from the airport there on Southwest 60th Avenue. And we'll have 4 races that day. Some of the best jockeys and trainers in the nation will be here for that day. You'll see your John Velasquez, your Kent DeSormos, and some of those people will be up here. So, you know, top jockeys, top trainers, all right here in Ocala for that one particular day.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Brock. And speaking of horses and thoroughbreds and champions, I'd like to focus now with Mr. Michael Price. Michael, you have worked very long in the industry with the horses, so you have a great insight on the whole thing, the whole experience. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your experience, and then a little bit about your book, The Story of Storm Cat?
Well, good morning, John.
Good morning.
I grew up back in West Virginia, Ohio area. I started out as a kid working at Wheeling Downs Racetrack. My cousins were in the thoroughbreds, and they trained and owned, and they kind of introduced me to the business, and I've been at it ever since I was a kid.
Excellent. And where are you originally from?
I'm from a small town called Bridgeport, Ohio. It's right on the Ohio River, across the bridge from Wheeling, West Virginia.
Okay. And how did you come to Ocala?
I've been coming to Ocala since like about 1980. I had some friends that lived down here, and at that time I was working underground in the coal mines, and I took a little vacation to come down here and visit my friends. And once I got here and saw all these farms and all these horses, I just fell in love. And so I went back home, and 2 weeks later after I got back here, I just gave up my job in the coal mine and moved down here and got back in the horse business.
Okay. And then how did you get into racehorse training?
Well, I've never been a trainer. I've just, basically been a jockey valet and a groom. And I've done just about everything else in the business, And I had my own last year that I trained for a while, and raced him. But we didn't have much success, so I retired him, and I'll just give it another shot down the road somewhere.
Did you work a little bit up north with the horses?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, I took an early retirement as a jockey valet from Mountaineer Park back in Chester, West Virginia. And I still go back occasionally and work part-time just for something to do. It's keep involved in the business back there.
You were working in the Meadowlands and all that?
Well, I started out at Atlantic City as a valet there, and then from there I went to Delaware Park. From Delaware Park I came down here and worked Tampa 1 year, and then they opened a brand new track in Birmingham, Alabama, so I was there from opening day until that place closed. And then they opened Remington Park in Oklahoma City, so I was there from day one. I started out there as a valet, and I worked there until I think it was 93 or somewhere around there.
And then you got involved with Storm Cat, the subject of the book that you wrote, The Story of Storm Cat, the Racehorse. You wrote this book in 2009, and you've captured in great detail your experience with the horse. Tell us about it.
Well, when I was a valet in Atlantic City, I happened to meet a trainer, Jonathan Shepard, and there was just something about Jonathan that I really liked. And so when Atlantic City closed, then we went to Delaware. And so I kind of looked around for a morning job, and I knew that Jonathan was there, and so he gave me a job, and I worked for him all that year. And then the following year, when I went back, they said, "We got 2 new horses in, Michael, and we want you to take one of them." And they said his name is Stormcat. And so I, looked in the stall at him, and I wasn't really impressed by what I saw, because he was kind of a small horse. It wasn't that big. He was basically about 15'2" or somewhere around there at that time. And so anyway, I asked him what was so special about him, and he told me that it was his breeding. He was rurally bred. His mother, his father, and his grandparents. And so anyway, I went in to kind of check him out, and he tried to bite me, but he wasn't playing. He was for real, and so that's how he introduced himself to me. So I had to turn around and introduce myself to him, and just let him know, you respect me, I'll respect you, and we'll get along good. And so from that time on, we developed a bond that was just it's just hard to put it into words, a relationship that we had.
Wow.
And most people, they know Stormcat is the stallion. They know his success as a stallion, but nobody really knows the whole story behind his racing career. And the book that I authored, it gives that story. It's my first rodeo, this book, but I mean, I did the very best that I could, and I have pictures in there of Stormcat, myself, and a trainer, Jonathan Shepard, and his exercise riders, I was inspired by the secretary at the Overbrook Farm where Stormcat is, and one day I was down to visit him, and she had told me about all the fans that he had all over the country. I was telling her about some of the times that we spent together, and she just kind of suggested that I put it in the writing. And so I just sat down, and each night after work I just reminisce and go back and just start putting things together, and then I finally came up with my book.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing this with us. And where can people find the book?
Amazon.com. And the book is called The Story of Stormcat, and it's by me, Michael Price. Also, if you want to order it, or you can get in touch with me, it's 740-359-2140.
Okay.
And also, I would like to thank Team Flamingo for covering for me this morning and allowing me to be here. And thank you also, Linda Clark.
Thank you, team. Well, I'd like to now ask everybody on the panel, as well as our call-in guests, one of the focuses is how we can help facilitate the greater interaction between the equine community and the people of Ocala to unite the two. What kind of tips would you offer? Brock, do you want to start?
Yeah, there's lots of things that people can do to interact with the horse community. Of course, Florida Horse Park is one of the best ways. All the great events that they have out there, and we're great supporters of Florida Horse Park. And if you haven't been out there, I really encourage you to go out there and see some of the events that they have going on. Of course, if you just have 5 or 10 minutes, stop by our office at Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association. We have a museum there where you can see the Kentucky Derby trophy that was won by Needles. Of course, Needles is one of 6 horses that has won the Kentucky Derby that was bred and raised here in Ocala. You can see some of the great trophies that some of the great thoroughbreds, Florida bred thoroughbreds, have won over the years. Of course, there's the championship day that we had talked about, the sales that we had talked about. So, and farm tours. I really encourage you to maybe go out and see some of these fantastic farms that we have here in Ocala. Double Diamond Farm has tours every Monday. Journeyman Stud offers tours as well.
Excellent.
And there's other opportunities for people to get out and actually get real close to these horses and see exactly how majestic and how great they are.
Thank you, Brock. How about our call-in guests? Do they have a comment at this time?
Yes, this is Cindy Oatman, and
Cindy.
actually part of my position here, besides handling sponsorship marketing, is community relations here in Ocala. I am very involved with the several groups in Ocala. One of them is Farm Tours of Ocala. They come out here and they bring some of the retired citizens out here in large groups to see some of the Grand Prix and what's going on. On March the 7th, we're going to have the Marion County Chamber and Economic Partnership Equine Committee coming out here to do a short course.
and we'll be explaining, of course, what they're watching and some of the events that will be going on at that time. They'll be watching the Grand Prix, having lunch with us. We definitely would love to have more interaction with the local community and have more people come out in the groups if we could, and I will help facilitate that. We'd love to have you come out.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you.
Anne from Florida Horse Park?
Well, certainly attendance at any of the Florida Horse Park events or visiting our webpage and getting a sense for the events would be a great way to start. However, I actually was talking with John a little bit before this session, and we think that there's a need to have a centralized place for equestrian events so that folks aren't having to surf across multiple places. And I know that's something, John, that you were talking about doing, and I know we'd be supportive of posting our events and making sure. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about what you had in mind there?
Well, there's several things that Ocala Magazine wants to definitely partnership with the Florida horse community. One thing I will add is that Ocala Magazine is now the proud sponsor of the Cattle Baron Ball coming up in April 13th. So be sure to look for that in our calendar. But also just working closely with every other group. One of the things that we covered in our January issue on page 78 was the Equine Ag Committee with the CEP, the Chamber and Economic Partnership. The article there is called Making Horse Sense, and what they do is they talk about the different things that could work towards building business together, working with the tourism trade, with the hotel industry, the restaurants, doing joint partnerships and deals so that people can stay at a nice place, get a good meal, get tickets to a show regarding the horses, any one of the venues that we just talked about. And these are the ideas that we think are going to increase and better, really, the situation of increasing our equine tourism to our local area. Would you all agree?
I would very much agree with that. As a matter of fact, I think that we have members of our staff that are on that economic development project here. The horse business here in Ocala, I think, is responsible for some 35,000 jobs in the community. I mean, it's very, very important. And the economic impact that HITS brings to the community. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to be a resident of Ocala and not realize everything that HITS brings to the Ocala area. And I might add that we also publish Horse Capital Digest, which is the official publication of HITS. But and then the thoroughbred breeding industry. I mean, everybody gets all excited about the Kentucky Derby this time of year. Of course, the Kentucky Derby is the first Saturday in May, and many of those horses, including last year's Kentucky Derby winner, all have another. They are raised right here in Ocala. They have many, many connections to Ocala. So I really encourage people to get involved or to appreciate everything that they have here in terms of the equine industry.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brock. Our call-in, one final comment from them? No? Okay. I'm going to draw attention to the feature again. As everybody talked about, we have lots of venues in our area that will showcase horses and people can interact. In addition to HITS and Florida Horse Park, we mentioned the WR Ranch at Gypsy Hollow, the Hidden Lark Farm, Silver Stride Equestrian Center, Macon Tracks Trail Rides, Chasing a Dream, Grand Oaks Resort and Carriage Museum, and a very cute and adorable Candyland Miniature Horses and Shetlands. These are all places where you can find trails to ride or horses to ride if you don't have any resources. So I welcome everyone to check that out and to also mention it to their friends and families, either other parts of Florida or other parts of the country, so they know what to look for in our local area and take advantage of them. Yeah. Larry, do you have any comment there on the horse industry?
I think you're doing a good job focusing on something that we should all be focusing on. There was just a news article 2 days ago. The Convention and Visitors Bureau is looking for ideas on what we can do as a community to bring people to our area that are visiting Florida anyway.
Yes, that's right.
So that would be a great thing, yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Once again, I'd like to thank all my guests for being here. Thank you, Michael, for sharing your book, and we'd love to see more about it. In fact, Michael, you and I talked about having a follow-up show with some other people in the industry. Can you name them really quick? with the mic.
There's Melvin James, Melvin was the one who broke a firm down here, Triple Crown winner firm. Then there's Gus Gray, who authored a book about one of the most prominent horsemen and businessmen here in Ocala, which was Fred Hooper. And then we have Charlie Davis. Charlie was the exercise rider for Secretariat. And so the four of us eventually will probably get together and do a little, hopefully we can do a little story on the four of us.
Yes, we would definitely love to do that with you. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you again to all my guests for being here today, and thank you to you, Larry, and to Robin for your help today.
All right, we'll take a little break and be right back. Thank you, John.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala. ABC News Now. I'm Karen Chase. Saying he doesn't see Oscar Pistorius as a flight risk or a violent man, a South African judge has ordered the Olympic sprinter to be freed on bail while awaiting trial.